Welcome to Build Series Sydney. I'm your host, Danny Clayton, and joining me now, prolific Australian actor Remy Hii. A round of applause.
Thank you.
How are you doing, Remy? Are you well?
I'm great. I mean, all things considered, I'm getting over like a bout of like 2 successive rounds of jet lag. I made the trip from Sydney to LA twice in the last 7 days, which is a personal record.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Don't ask me why. I'm crazy. I'm
What
a
are your
masochist.
tricks? How do you get rid of it?
Like I've actually gone full into the like airplane hack mode, like even down to like people, a lot of friends like who are full on into Korean facial like skincare routines, and they're like giving me these face masks to use on the plane to make sure. Yeah, no. I mean, imagine waking up to the guy next to you just like looking like Freddy from,
Friday
yeah,
13.
no. So I didn't go that far, but I mean, definitely just water. It used to be that I'd get on a plane and be like, oh, free drinks, but now I'm like, no, I'm just on the waters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love coming across people that are like doing exercises, like doing squats and push-ups.
I saw someone doing yoga, like in not in the aisle. There was like a little corner annex, and the hostess was like, "Excuse me, we do have to get the food trolley through here." So
So
maybe
if you
you're
can,
downward dog, like somewhere else.
Can you do your yoga Pilates when you land?
Yeah.
But look, you have been flying a lot because you've been incredibly busy. I mean, I should start by congratulating you on an epic performance in Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Thank you.
How exciting, especially with the feedback being so positive. How was that experience for you?
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, it was thrilling. It was a dream come true. It was one of the most amazing experiences to go through that process of auditioning and thinking, like I've never got a chance, and then just like full throttle getting thrown into one of the biggest movies that got released this year, and all the way through to the premiere. I mean, look, it was just a wild ride, and I was so thankful and grateful to play a part in it.
Yeah, I mean, the energy that you brought to your character, Brad, was this delightful, smug charisma where you were like hateable and lovable, and you want to see him fail, but at the same time, it's like you want to see him succeed. It's very strange, and it seemed like a really fun character to play. How did you bring that extra energy or that dynamic to Brad?
Well, thank you. And thank you for getting the lovable side of him, because I think a lot of people, a lot of the diehard fans, they get lost in the like, we hate Brad because he's in Peter's way. And yeah, he is. Look, I mean, Brad was born, I think, out of a sort of a mixed shared experience between one of our writer and producers, Eric Carroll, and John Watts, the director. They spoke on the record of how Brad kind of summed up for them that guy in college who they wanted to hate, but just couldn't. Like, he was the guy who got their girl and the guy who just like, absolutely creamed their way through their classes and stuff. And they wanted to hate him, and there was that intense jealousy, but they couldn't because he was just a nice guy. And I really tried to get into that aspect of Brad. It's like, I mean, if you really look at his intentions, if you really look at what he wants, I mean, like, he likes MJ.
Yeah.
Now,
there's nothing wrong with that.
there's nothing wrong with that. And
He likes a girl.
From his perspective, what he saw was Peter potentially being a sleaze, and he kind of takes it upon himself to. And look, all is fair in love is war, and in love and war. He was taking it upon himself to let her know what was up. So I mean, look, that's the angle that I had to come at it from. I'm like, Brad's a good guy. He just didn't know that extra vital piece of information.
It's nice seeing you so fiercely defend Brad.
Oh, mate, I'm Team Brad all the way.
Yeah, because there's a particular scene. I don't want to say any spoilers or anything, but when you're watching him on the plane doing quite well with MJ, you're loathing him, but you're laughing at the same time, and it's fun. You don't want him to succeed because we're Team Peter, but clearly you're Team Brad. But that cast looked like sensational to work with. Was there anyone in particular that you really gelled with?
I mean, look, it's a really cliche answer. We all got along like house on fire, and I think you can see that. Everyone was just having so much fun. We had a real adventure of a shoot. I mean, everyone was just, we're all loving what we're doing, and we got to visit these amazing locations and shoot in them. I mean, look, as far as the acting goes, my scenes with Tom Holland, I'll cherish. And I remember years ago watching him in one of his first big screen performances in The Impossible with Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor. And, it's about the tsunamis, the real life tsunamis that happened in Thailand. And I remember, and this is a long time ago, watching him as a really young performer absolutely nail it in a scene that literally brought a tear to my eye. And I remember almost crying and just thinking, that kid's got talent. And then I find myself, down the track sharing camera space with him. And I mean, he's still got it.
Yeah.
He's honestly one of the best actors I think of his generation, and we just had so much fun. I mean, like really, I had such a great experience as an actor, getting into like the nuts and bolts of a scene and just like really like sinking our teeth in and figuring out what sticks.
Because I'm guessing that after you cut and there's some time off, everyone kicks it like any workplace. Were you off having drinks in Italy somewhere?
Yeah, we were. I mean, look, we again were really lucky. I hear of a lot of shoots that would happen, say, in LA, where all the actors are from LA and they just go back home to their families and their friends. Whereas we were like on this kind of mirroring what happened in the movie. We were on a big school trip and we got to like stay in these incredible locations, like I said. And we like one weekend we saw that we had a few extra days spare, so a bunch of us took the train to Paris. And we went around Paris, like touring the canals, went to the Centre Pompidou, like getting some art in, and it was all going, like some nice like rosé on the Seine, and it was all going really well until we tried to get back to London where we were filming, and we realized that we didn't bring our work papers.
Oh no.
So entering the UK, when they said, where are all of your letters of invitation to come and work, which we thought that it was fine because we entered originally and we'd started work and then we just took a weekend to Paris. And we were at like the international border and they were telling us that we were getting denied entry.
Yeah.
And we had to start work the next day and we were all like freaking out going, oh my God, we're going to get fired. We're like...
Someone surely would have said,
deported.
that's Spider-Man.
Yeah,
God damn
and we were like, what do you say? What do you not say? And we were like begging and pleading. And eventually, after like an hour of us just like sweating profusely, thinking the worst is going to happen, someone came to their senses and were like, these kids just, they don't know what they're doing. Just let them through. And...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And surely Nick Fury put in a good word for
Samuel
you.
L. Jackson somewhere on the other side of the planet is like, the hell these kids got themselves up to.
Can you ring Robert Downey Jr. on FaceTime and be like, look, him, let us back. And I just hope that they were filming border security at the time and then all of this was caught on camera.
It would have made for like great primetime viewing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because so much of that movie, it's great because it's almost like the locations are a character in itself. And so something I did want to ask you about is what are some of the challenges that we won't see as an audience when you're in one of the most densely populated tourist locations in the world?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think it's true, like the locations play such a pivotal role in this film specifically. It's the first time you see Spidey out of his natural habitat outside of New York. And I remember, Venice was a particularly tricky one for anyone who's ever been to Venice. It's like one of the most crowded tourist hotspots in the world. And we were filming in San Marco Piazza, like the main square, and they had, we dressed and made up hundreds of extras to look like tourists to populate our little portion of the square that we were allowed to shoot in. Meanwhile, like the rest of it was still like business as usual Venice, and they had security guards trying to keep people out. But I mean, there's just no way you can tell 100 like extras looking like tourists from the real. Like we had very convincing tourists, and so we'd be doing our thing, and then just having like real life people just wander in the middle of the shot and be like, "What are you doing? What are these cameras?" Yeah, and also like we'd film in like some really crowded like really tiny streets in Venice where we'd have to block off those small sidewalk portions for like quite a while in order to get a shot done. And we were blocking people's access to their homes. We're trying to be really polite about it, and they all knew what was going on, but there was this one old like 80-something Italian guy who just he'd had enough and he broke through the cordon in the middle of a shot and like just walked in front of Tom Holland and the camera and like turned and like eye barreled the camera and just told us all exactly what he thought of our film and what we were doing there. And I wish it could make it to like the behind the scenes, but they'd have to censor so much of it. It's really funny. So
gosh, I hope they gave him a little credit at the end of the film.
He was, I think he was one of the best actors on a movie, and you just unfortunately you don't get to see him.
Because that's something that's quite exciting about the release of the DVD now that Spider-Man is now available. There's so much extra stuff in there. There's all these extra scenes, deleted scenes, things that we've never seen before. So were there any scenes that got cut that you were in that you wish were in the film?
Yeah, actually, I mean, we shot so much, and there are like reams of footage now coming out there, like a lot of deleted scenes, a lot of bloopers. One of the fantastic things about the creative team is that they had such confidence in the script that they had that once we'd done several passes of the script version, they'd hand it over to us as the actors and put a new card in the camera and just say like, go nuts.
Ad-lib.
And ad-lib and improvise. And there's so much footage in there, especially when you're with, like someone like JB Smoove or Martin Starr who've like really cut their teeth. I mean, JB Smoove is like improvisational comedy genius, royalty. I think there's like about 4 feature films of just his character, like Mr. Harrington and Mr. Dell, the teachers just going off. For my character, I remember when we shot this scene in the Prague Opera House. It's... The scene, it's unspoken, and it's like it's just a gesture from me to Peter. I kind of flip him off, and we ran through quite a lot of versions of how that would play out because I'm kind of like stealing a seat next to MJ, and that was actually I remember that move came out of the 6th take or something. We were just like playing around with it. Let's see where we can take the character. Let's push it. How much is Brad likable, or how much is he really just like...
You flipped in the bird.
Yeah, I flipped in the bird. So that was actually a little improv moment right there. And
I think that was the Australian coming out in you.
Was. Yeah, it was.
And that's the one they kept. And it was like, oh, Brad, that was me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't you, of course. It was Brad.
Yeah, it was Brad. Brad. That was his move, not mine.
Okay, well...
I would never.
As a viewer, I mean, I felt very jealous because you just had this incredible chance to fly around the world doing what you do best. But it's definitely not the first time you've traveled around the world. It seems like a lot of your roles involve traveling. Marco Polo, where did you go to shoot this series?
Marco Polo, we shot, in Venice, Italy again.
Yep.
In the desert of Kazakhstan.
Okay.
The high Tatras Mountains of Slovakia.
Sure.
In Budapest, Hungary. In Malaysia, we were all over the place.
Yeah. How many frequent fly miles do you have? Guesstimation.
A lot. I haven't looked, but it's getting there.
Yeah.
It's getting there.
Now, I was talking to a source, which will remain anonymous, about Marco Polo. And they were telling me that you actually got tricked into thinking that you were in a saucy scene. Did I ask something embarrassing? Would you like to elaborate on...
I'd first of all like to know who your source is and where you got this information from.
No, never reveal sources. No.
Yeah. Look, so Marco Polo was an action, historical, epic adventure story that told the story of Marco Polo and his travels to the Mongolian kingdom of Kublai Khan, and I mean it was epic in all ways and stayed very true to the story. And one of the big facets of Kublai Khan's Mongolian Empire was the fact that he had about 1,400 concubines on the go. And look, there was at least one scene in that film, in that TV series, where it was set in what they called Kublai's Pleasure Dome. And
we're going here.
It was a castmate of mine, Olivia Cheng. I'm going to call you out right now, who pulled me into a scene basically trying to getting so uncomfortable here. She told me that I had to, that it was a last minute scripted thing, and that they threw me into like some
orgy.
Some new wardrobe, and I was basically thrown into an orgy, and I like ran on set thinking, oh my god, I read the call sheet wrong. I'm a really bad actor, and I got to the set, and it was just like dozens of extras, all in stages of undress. And it was like that moment where the record just scratched and everyone turned to look at me like I've just burst in going, I'm so sorry, I'm late. And the director just looked at me and was like, what are you doing here on my set? Like, get the hell out. And I looked like a really, really big perv.
Okay.
It's not a proud moment.
Yeah.
Or
I think
like
you may have incurred a nickname of King of the Orgy after that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up during an interview. It was crass, mean, and unfair. I threw you under the bus.
That was a deep dive. Not very many people know that, so that's hilarious. And I want your source. I'm going to kill them.
Definitely not telling you my source. Now, that looked like a very physical role. Like, orgy aside.
Yeah, all of those aside.
It looked like a very physically taxing role.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. I mean, did you have to do training to get yourself prepared for something like this?
I don't look the part now. I went back through photos. This is I think we shot the first season 5 years ago, the second season 4 years ago now, and I went back through photos and I was like, oh my God, I don't recognize myself. I played Prince Jingham. He was the son and crown heir of the Mongolian kingdom. And as soon as I got that role, I knew I was in for something big. And, I mean, that is the responsibility and the burden that you have to carry as an actor. It's like, all right, time to get match fit. And so I got myself a personal trainer and threw myself in. And I'm not naturally like a very built dude. So I was on this like crazy 3,500 calorie a day diet, which is just bonkers. It's insane. And I put on about 7 kilograms.
Wow.
There's a 7 kilogram difference between me back then and me now. And it was like training 6 days a week, on the big days, like 3 to 3.5 hours a day of like, it was, we'd wake up, and like smash down like a really, really big breakfast. And then off we go, like do an hour of weights, an hour of martial arts and choreography and like Kung Fu, Wing Chun, wushu and swords. And then it was either off to, like archery or horse riding or archery on horseback. And it was like, that was our life for like a couple of months.
Wow. So after you've been that shredded, is it tempting just to be that guy now forever? Just to continually be that ripped?
No. I mean, I got back home and I just left it. I was like, oh my God, I don't have to eat that much anymore. It was hard. Like it was really, really hard work. And again, I'm just like not naturally that like, body shape or type. It was really hard work to keep it up.
But do you think that now that you've acquired all these martial arts skills and you've been there, that you might be able to apply this to a role? Could you be like the next Neo? Like,
oh mate, throw it at me.
Yeah. What would you like to do now that you've gone through all this training? What's a role that you'd like to use that physicality in?
Oh geez, that's a really great question. I grew up watching like, I remember one of my favorite films was King Arthur. And I love all of that medieval, that kind of swordsmanship in all those films. And I think it was a recent King Arthur film, Guy Ritchie's movie. And one of my castmates on Marco Polo, Tom Wu, got thrown in as, not thrown in, but he was cast as one of the Knights of the Round Table. And I love that little bit of, back history jiggery where they're like, you know what, let's throw like a little bit of accuracy to the side and get a more inclusive thing. And it was really cool to see, like a what if version of history. I mean, we know that there were certain trade routes available, so maybe we can have someone of like Asian appearance in as, so mate, give me Lancelot. Like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something that I found really interesting is that just before you arrived, I sent out a tweet saying, hey, we've got Remy coming in. And it seemed like a question that people did really want to ask you about and talk to you about is about representation in the screen. And of course, now that you're a star in Crazy Rich Asians, how do you feel about being someone that is representing Asian actors?
Yeah, I mean, I feel incredible. I feel so honored to be in a position where, I do have a platform and have a say in these issues that matter so much to us. And I mean, Crazy Rich Asians was such a win for everyone, I think. And, from an Asian performer's seat, like from where we're sitting, like, I mean, it's kind of like what we've been trying to get to. It's where we've been trying to get to for a really long time. And the success of that film was so heartening. And it was the feedback from the community that was so important. It's like, it is so important to be seen. So I think for me, I mean, it's a really humbling place to be in. But you know that it's you're taking on a role that is really important and means so much to so many people. And I only hope that in the next steps forward, in the films and roles that I take on, that I can keep sort of like moving that yardstick of representation and what we get on screen like forward in a more positive way.
Yeah. And growing up, were there any actors that you looked up to, Asian actors that you felt represented you?
Yeah, see, I mean, unfortunately, not really. I go back and I look on, my time growing up in Australia and how barren the landscape was. How few people we really had to latch onto. And I mean, there are, performers who, Asian Australian performers and worldwide who, did have seats at the table in the entertainment industry, but the parts that they were given, unfortunately, weren't the kind of things you'd really want to grab onto and aspire to. I mean, outside of like Bruce Lee and Mr. Miyagi, it's like in the real pop culture sphere, it's like what do we have? And with a film like Crazy Rich Asians, it's amazing because I think that finally, I hope a generation of kids growing up now, unlike maybe necessarily what I did have to do, was they can now grow up and see a film like that and go, we can be all walks of life, and it doesn't just have to be the one token ethnic or Asian, guy or girl on screen, but it's like here you have a whole cast populated with people who might look like you, and that's something that we can, you can aspire to.
And what about now? I mean, are there Asian actors that you think are just killing it right now and are changing the tone and changing the dialogue and representation?
Yeah, there are. I mean, I don't want to name names or single anyone out because I think there are so many of us now. Like, I feel like the floodgates are really starting to open, and there are some really great roles being written and really great stories being told. And again, it would be remiss of me to just like name a single one, but I so look up to Benedict Wong, who played Kublai Khan, my father, in Marco Polo, and we have such a great and special relationship. And he was a real mentor to me during that period, and we still catch up a lot now. But seeing what he's done post that with Doctor Strange and Gemini Man with Will Smith, directed by Ang Lee, coming out now. I mean, he is just killing the game, and he's done so. Like every role that he's taken on has been so considered. And I say that because it has been so easy, I think, in the past for, as an Asian performer, to take on those roles that are seen as stereotypical, that really play into the stereotype and don't show us in the best light. And I really respect Benedict Wong for what he's done in, choosing only the roles that he really, really believes in. And that's been something that I've wanted to emulate.
Definitely. And can we talk about Alistair, your role?
Who
is just a very rich, crazy rich Asian.
Speaking of people you want to emulate, let's go to Alistair. Yeah, he's a party boy.
What's it like stepping into Alistair's shoes and to make believe that that you live in this like ostentatious world of insane wealth? That must be fun.
It's fun.
Yeah,
I was gonna say fun. It's just fun because that is, I think, Alistair's like word of the day. He wakes up and he goes, "I want to have fun."
Yeah,
he's got all this money. He decided one day that he wanted to be a movie producer, and he wants to get his girlfriend into it. All right, let's go. Let's have some fun. And unfortunately, for him, like I think that kind of gets in the way, and he doesn't really see what's going on. Like the fact that his relationship probably isn't really where he wants it to be, and he ends up, kind of like losing that at the end of the film. But I mean, it was just fun. We had a ball on that movie.
Being disgustingly rich looks really, really difficult, I think. So is it something that you'd like to be disgustingly rich after you've played Alistair, or do you think it's maybe not for you?
No, I think more money, more problems, man.
Right?
I'm so comfortable, like just having like a very comfortable life. I think I've had these jeans repaired like 8 times. I take them down to the nudie store every time. They're like, "Oh, you again? Another one?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm the kind of guy who like buys a shirt and only replaces it once there are holes in it.
Yeah. It gives a character,
Yeah. So no, I don't find myself like in need or want of money, and I think the only thing I really spend it on is travel in my downtime. Like on experiences rather than things.
Yeah,
so.
like Burning Man, which we're going to get to very, very soon. Look, we do have a Q&A. Some people have been sending in some messages and questions. In the Marvel films, how do the directors tell you? Do they deliberately try to mislead the cast into what happens in the script? This is a great question. Obviously, the MCU is shrouded with secrecy, and to prevent spoilers and leaks, do they treat you like mushrooms?
Yeah, that is a really good question. And I mean, the answer kind of has to be yes. So here's a funny story. When I auditioned for Spider-Man, I knew that it was a Marvel movie, but I didn't know what character I was going to play. They gave us fake audition scripts for it. And so you had no idea what you were stepping into or walking into. And the day came where I was told, look, you've got the role, but it was like, you've got a role. They couldn't say what it was. And it was like this Mission Impossible. Do you choose to accept it? We can tell you who and what you're playing once you say yes and fly to London. And I was like, I've seen like TV shows that tell me like I shouldn't just jump on planes and go to meet strangers.
Do it, Remy.
Yeah. But I was like, oh, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Say no? So I got on a plane to London. I didn't know where I was going. I jumped in the car at Heathrow Airport, and I was like, so where are you taking me to? And then he was like, oh, we're going to the studios in this location. I was like, great, this is where I'm going to be spending the next few months of my life. Then it was all I was figuring it out on the go. And I arrived there, and I was meeting everyone, all of like the Marvel people and the Sony people, and I still had no idea what I was going to be doing. It was the strangest experience. And finally, I think on day 2 or day 3, someone gave me a script, and I was like, oh, I'm playing a teenager. Yeah,
that's what you said.
Yeah. Well, I was like, because I had no idea. And look, I mean, a teenager, I'm not. And I kind of was like, oh, surely those days are behind me. But I saw who I was playing, Brad Davis, and I was like, this is going to be fun. Yeah. This is going to be fun. But it was really weird. I've never gone through a process like that where I literally had like, I felt like I had one of those hoods over my head, and these guys had, pushed me into a van. And yeah.
And when that penny dropped and you realized it was Spider-Man, which is not a small franchise, what was that first reaction? Did you want to call your parents? Did you?
Yeah, I did. I had to. They were the first people I told, and I think they were sort of more. No, I mean I was going to say they were more excited than I was, but that's a hard one to beat. I was really like bouncing off the walls. Yeah. Okay.
Did you cry? Sorry, what?
No, almost. I think almost from the screaming. I was so overjoyed.
I would have cried. What can you tell us about the upcoming series, Jane the Novella?
I can unfortunately tell you that it's not going ahead. So Jane the Novella was this wonderful spin-off of Jane the Virgin, which, has just like knocked it out of the park. They've had 5 great seasons of television. They've won Emmys. They've won Golden Globes. And Jane the Novella was a hopeful spin-off series that they were going to create based in that world, in that universe, with the lovely Gina Rodriguez narrating one of her novellas, one of her stories. And we were all going to be characters in this wild world of her imagination. And so we shot the pilot in Los Angeles and Malibu earlier this year, and had the most amazing time doing it. Unfortunately, with pilot season and the way that television economics work, it's like they hundreds of TV shows, pilot episodes get filmed in that period at the beginning of the year. And at the end of it, they kind of just jam the scripts into this algorithm machine, like this big computer in a room, pull a lever, and it like takes in all of these integers and values and just spits out profitable or not profitable at the end of it. And it's anyone's best guess as to whether that particular pilot's going to get picked up. So unfortunately, and because it was such a great story, that one didn't get picked up. So, you win some, you lose some, but that was a really sore miss to see that one go.
Yeah, it does sound like a disappointing loss for us, at least. Okay, here's another question from Kayla. What's the funniest blooper story you remember from the Spider-Man shoot?
Hi, Kayla. And I think it's the one that's just went publicly available, Spider-Man. I think the Spider-Man account published a lot of bloopers on their social media, and it's probably available Blu-ray and DVD physical release out now. And it was it was a scene that I had with Tom, and I'd spent so long preparing for it. And I think it was one of those cases where you just like, you try a little too hard, and because it was a really big scene. It was between his character Peter Parker and my character Brad, where we kind of like really come to a confrontation. And all of a sudden, they started introducing new moves. It was like, okay, instead of having the cameras on a fixed position as normal, we're going to have them like roving around with these, we're going to do like a really cool move. And then it was, Remy, you're going to burst out of the door and then start walking backwards. And you're going to have the scene backwards, but you have to move at this precise speed, otherwise you'll hit the cameraman. But you can't go too fast and you can't go too slow. And then you need to hit this specific spot. Can you do that? I'm like, oh, the specific spot that's behind me and I can't see. And then we can, I'm like, yeah, just do that. And for the first five takes, I was just like flubbing my line after line and thinking, oh my God, like I don't deserve to be here. And then I said something ridiculous involving a chicken. And then it all just like stopped and crashed down, and Tom was just like, a chicken? And that was the blooper that they chose for me. So thanks, guys. Thanks Marvel, thanks Sony.
Well, thanks Tom for really kind of making that a
Acting,
moment.
it's really hard.
Wow, so we've got loads of questions still coming through. If you could be given a superhero role, any character or superpower, what would you pick?
Well, I mean, my first pick is unfortunately taken, and I'm not just saying this, but Spider-Man was always my favorite superhero growing up. But I mean, who can take it away from Tom? I think next would be, I used to walk into the hairdressers when I was like 6 years old with the Superman doll. And when they'd ask like what I wanted, I'd just show them the doll, and I kind of like wanted them to just do the curl.
You've got the Bruce. I mean, you've got the hair, Clark Kent hair. I should say.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that would be a second choice, but yeah.
Okay. Now, something that I didn't pick up here, but something that someone messaged me on Twitter. I just want to make sense of it. What is Remy the cat? Does that make sense to you, or is that just...
Remy the cat is a real-life cat that has a social media handle. It's a cat that like lives in Harvard University, and I think is either studying maths or law. And
I'm sure it is.
As a fellow cat lover, I don't know who found who first, whether like they followed me or I followed them. But I was like, there is a cat named Remy, and they're at Harvard. This is awesome. And we've kind of like struck up this unlikely friendship online.
You and a cat.
Yeah, me and a cat named Remy, and one of these days I'm just gonna have to go to Harvard and be like, hey, little guy.
Okay. Yeah. So I hope that happens too. Now I can't let you go without asking you a little bit about Burning Man. We don't have to get too deep into it because I know it's sacred. What did you take from Burning Man? You spent all this time in the desert in a playa. Did you have any profound moments of realization?
I did. I had a great sort of moment out there. For anyone who doesn't know, Burning Man is this incredible sort of event that happens every year in the middle of a desert in Nevada in America, where 80,000 people come together, and it's a collision of art and culture and a social experiment where people don't use money and everything is gifted freely, and you just meet some of the most amazing souls. And I went with some really, really close friends of mine. None of us had ever been before. And it's a really hard place to survive out there. You need to bring everything you need, like all your water and food, and you realize, wow, we're really kind of like on the edge out there. And for me, it was like, for starters, I was given this incredible crystal.
Same. I was given a crystal too.
Way. Well, maybe
I've got mine here actually.
That's insane.
Let's talk about it afterwards.
Which I'm really cherishing at the moment because it's a cleansing crystal, so I've been told, and I find that I'm at the point in my life where maybe I do need to like sort of cleanse and go through some things and take stock of what I've got, what I've accomplished so far, and where I want to go. And I mean, the big lesson that I took away from that was letting go. I find it so hard to let go of some things. And at the very end of that event, they burn down the temple and the man, these enormous structures, and it's a real sort of sign to letting go. So.
Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to let you go very, very soon. But
smooth segue.
I hear that you have just been overseas doing a chemistry check. What is that? Can you tell us what it's about?
Yeah, I can't say too much about it, but I had an incredible time overseas where I was asked to go and audition for a chemistry read, which is what happens when you get really, really close to a role and they want to see how you and the other established actor, you know, like how you guys are going to be in the film. And so it means that there are very few people in play and the director's like working with you on a very, very hands-on basis. And it was so exciting. And so I'm just kind of like in that white-knuckled period of like
waiting for the call.
Yeah, what could happen? What could happen? But I don't want to jinx it, so I can't say too much more about it. But
okay, so we should keep our eyes out for the next big role. It could be,
please do,
something from that chemistry read, hopefully.
Yeah.
But could I just say thank you so much for joining us?
Thank you.
And a round of
It's been a
applause for Remy Hii. Check out Spider-Man Far From Home, now available on Blu-ray and DVD. Thanks, mate. Cheers.